Update, my girlfriend is TikTok famous and I hate it. First of all, I just want to thank everyone for the support on the last post. I didn't expect it to blow up like that, so I took a lot of your guys' advice and had a heart-to-heart with her. I told her how much she'd changed since we met and how much I was beginning to hate the person she was becoming. She said she wasn't really aware how upset it was making me, and if I don't like it then she's sorry, but I won't be the one to drag her career to the floor. Still, after all this she seems to be so fixated on the fact that I'm the problem. She won't get it that she is the one that made our relationship hell. I just think the money has blinded her. Maybe it would have been fine for someone else to deal with, but marrying and having a future with an influencer unfortunately is not for me. We decided to mutually break it off, which happened all a little too easy, which makes me think something else is going on behind the scenes. Maybe I'm just overthinking that, but after 7 years you'd expect a little fight for the relationship. So I'm going to move in with my grandma for a bit until I can find somewhere. Also, I feel like it's only a matter of time she finds out about my Reddit post since the story was plastered all over TikTok with people speculating who it is, so it's probably best I'm not around when she does. As for telling you all who it is, I am not going to do that because even though it's been a bad couple of years with her, I don't want to be the one to kill her career. I'm better than that. Today I messed up by going on a date with my friend. I went on a date with one of my friends whom I'll call Sarah, not her real name, that I attend the same university with. I've always known that my friend has a thing for me, but I've always been reluctant to go on a date with her because I genuinely value our friendship and felt putting romance there would just mess things up. About a week ago, I was hanging out with Sarah and our other mutual friend as they listened to me complain about my unfortunate dating history. The mutual friend then put out the idea of a date between Sarah and I. He did this mainly to just make the room temporarily awkward, but it led to a conversation where I essentially asked Sarah for a date. For the days leading up to the date, Sarah and I became a lot more flirty, and I have to admit I was also excited for the date. 2 days ago, I picked Sarah up, and we went to a fairly fancy restaurant. When the waiter came, I ordered my food. She then ordered basically 3 separate meals, and I didn't know what to say or how to question why she ordered so much food. When I finished my food, she barely ate half of one plate, and she then said she wasn't actually hungry because she ate lunch right before she left her place. I asked her why then she ordered 3 meals, and she said one is for her mom's dinner since she's always wanted to try this restaurant out, and the other meal is for her to eat with her mom during dinner. I then told her that it's nice that she's getting dinner for her mom. It's cute that she would do that, to which she responded, "I should be thanking you since you're paying." I had told her I would pay for the date, but I definitely never agreed to paying for her mom and her dinner when we had only gone out for lunch. The meal was expensive, but I would have been fine paying for her if she actually ate all 3 meals. Instead, it all just felt wrong to me. The rest of the date was ruined for me, and I was checked out for the rest of the date. I was just going through the motions. After I left her at her place, I went radio silent on her as I was still annoyed by what she did. Today, I wanted to just tell her that I think it's better we go back to being friends, but as I opened our chat message I read a message she sent me shortly after our date. She basically was thanking me for the date and then went on to pour out her feelings for me and say that she has loved me for years and the date was like a dream come true for her. I had to drive over to her place to try as gently as possible that the feelings aren't mutual, which resulted in her crying and screaming at me as to why I was flirting with her before the date and why I even asked her out to the date. I feel horrible. Update, firstly, I think I messed up in going on this date with her knowing that she had feelings for me and there's risk of losing a friend. When I asked her to the date I reasoned that she's attractive, and even though I didn't like her in that way we technically should make a good couple, so I was willing to give it a shot, which in hindsight, it was my mess up and I should have just stuck to my logic surrounding friends. Over the week the flirtation came naturally, and I was genuinely optimistic and excited for the date, and definitely didn't intend on leading her on. Secondly, I paid for her meals. For me the money wasn't the problem. It was the concept in itself that bothered me. I don't mind buying her things to take home, I have actually done it a few times before. But you don't do that on a date nor without asking at least prior to ordering. I didn't mention the food thing when we spoke. Honestly, her reaction to me not reciprocating those feelings left me speechless, and she kicked me out of her house when she was crying and shouting at me. She was also mad it took me 2 days to reply to her confession of love. Lastly, last night before I slept, I talked to our mutual friend who had helped in instigating this date, and he was telling me that when he spoke to her she was a mess and talking about self-harm, which makes me feel so much worse. I wish this date had never happened.
I broke my son and his girlfriend up and he doesn't know it was me. I 49 female broke my son and his girlfriend up. They had been dating for almost a year and seemed very happy. For backstory, my son, 19, moved out pretty soon after his biological father passed. He told me he wanted to expand on life, because he was nervous he would waste it away being depressed over the death of someone so important to him. I understood completely and allowed him space and freedom, but we talked daily and he visited all the time. After a while of living alone, he moved back. It was around this time that he introduced me to Kaylee. Me and Kaylee got along immediately. She lacked a mother in her life, and I think she was quick to establish that relationship with me. Off the bat I noticed she was extremely paranoid and had extreme trust issues, but she wasn't toxic or manipulative, just anxious about where my son was going after work. She'd ask me and I'd answer with he went to his friend Mike's house. They hang out to play PlayStation with each other. We both genuinely believed that my son was at Mike's house, and we had no reason to suspect he wasn't. One night, after my son came home to pick up his PlayStation to hang out with Mike, Kaylee asked me to pick up some tampons and Tylenol for her. She lived close and her periods were always super intense, so I was used to going out late into the night to help her. My son gets out of work at 4 o'clock and is usually home or at Kaylee's place by 5:30, 6 o'clock at the latest. It was 6 and he hadn't swung by to drop off his PlayStation, so I shot him a text before I left the house to let him know why I was gone. It was something like, "Hey, Kaylee is on her period, so I'm heading out to grab supplies, you okay?" He answered me while I was driving, and I checked it when I got to the store. It was something like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Mike needed help building a shelf he bought, so I'm staying a little later." I sent back some message saying okay, be safe, all of that mother stuff, but I was not ready to see Mike, working the cash register, smiling at me as soon as I walked in. I hadn't forgotten he worked here, but obviously, figured it was his day off. I smiled back, but immediately I felt sick to my stomach. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe he means he is building it for Mike, while he works. I couldn't even think straight. I just got the tampons, some snacks and Tylenol for Kaylee and went to the register. Mike obviously started small talk with me, paraphrasing because my memory is bad, but it went something like this. "Hi Mrs., last name." "Hello, Mike. How are you doing?" "I'm alright, getting some supplies for my son's girlfriend." I remembered he laughed. "Speaking of your son, I haven't seen him in a few weeks. I need him to give me my PlayStation controller he borrowed. Can you tell him that?" I felt sick again. I didn't want to put my son in the spotlight, so I didn't mention the stories my son had been feeding me. I just smiled and said, "I'll let him know." I paid for my stuff and left quickly. I drove to Kaylee's house and gave her the supplies, but I didn't know what to say, or how to say it. She was smiling and laughing, and looked carefree. She asked me where my son was. I couldn't lie to her, I couldn't, so I answered honestly, "I don't know." I didn't know where he was, or who he was with. I just told her to call him and asked. She thanked me and I left her house. Later that night, at around 8 p.m., my son finally came home. I didn't say much to him, just asked him if he had fun. He said yeah, and went to his room. I knew I had to tell Kaylee. Soon after, I went into my room and called her. I informed her of what Mike had said, and how late he had gotten home. She told me that he said he was home hours ago, just tired so he wasn't going to visit. I could tell she was crying, and I asked her if she wanted me to come over. I went to her house and we talked about everything, and she told me she didn't want anything to do with him, and wanted to break up with him immediately. I told her she could, and if she wanted, she could be honest and say I told her. After I comforted her for a few hours, she asked if she could still contact me, even if she wasn't with my son. I said yes, but honestly, I'm hesitant about it. I love her, but it feels off to me. I would still help her though. Fast forward a few days and my son comes crying to me that Kaylee broke up with him and isn't giving him any reason. I, of course, comfort him too. He said that she needed time to think about it and would tell him why when she knows what to say, but for now, she is supposedly speechless. I was too, so I don't blame her. He cried for hours in his room, and in my arms, and regardless of what he did, of what I did, I comforted him. I want to tell him what I know, and I feel bad that he doesn't know, but Kaylee didn't tell him anything yet, so I might wait. Honestly, I feel stuck. This isn't just about cheating, even though I think he is. This is about trust, and how he is lying to me, and his girlfriend. We both know there is a possibility he isn't cheating, but he shouldn't have to lie if he has nothing to hide.
My wife found out about my spontaneity prompts. So about 3 to 4 years ago my wife and I had a huge, near relationship ending, fight. It was mostly about how she feels I don't care about her. I get busy during the day and I forget to text her for hours at a time. And when I do it's the normal "how's your day going" stuff. So to fix this I made a list of 31 prompts or activities in my notes ranging from a simple "I love you and can't wait to see you" to getting flowers or planning a picnic at the park to surprise her with. I set a reminder in my phone to go off every 2 days and I will use the prompt that matches the day of the month so it feels random and not like I'm repeating the same stuff. If I think of something new I'll add it to the sublist and swap them around every few months. This has worked out pretty well. It's not that I don't mean these things, but I just need a reminder to pull me out of work mode for a few minutes to check in on her without having to resort to the same boring and generic texts. Fast forward to this weekend, I was doing some car maintenance, and I also have important information about the cars and a maintenance log in my notes as well. And while I was under the car I asked my wife to look at the notes and check the torque spec for a drain bolt. Naturally, she sees a note called spontaneity prompts and is curious, so she opens that and sees a laundry list of romanticisms. She puts it together, probably recognizing some of the things I've said to her that I've been using this to talk to her during the day. She asks about it and I say I reference it from time to time when I want to do something nice or random to surprise her, or when I feel like saying something non-generic over text. She says I shouldn't need a list of things to talk to her about and suspects I just pulled a list of ideas off the internet, even though I made this list on my own. My partner suggested opening the relationship and I am devastated. My girlfriend and I are in our mid-30s, we are graduated academics, live in a house with a garden for rent, have a dog, are saving on possibly buying some property within the next half-decade if there ever pops up something affordable. We started out with a pretty active intimate life for the first year, then, dissertations, graduations, jobs and responsibilities, and it gradually died down. I was the more active part, but the response got less and less, and trying to initiate only to get turned down in 95% of the cases became hurtful, so I initiated fewer and fewer times. I tried to talk about it, trying to formulate it in me messages and being understanding, but she does not really like to talk about it. She said she can't relax when there is a lot of things going on like recent job changes and moves and whatnot, and that it is not me. So I am trying to give her time, not to pressure her, picked up self-pleasure, We make love once every 2 to 3 months now, and it is not as good in the sense that it was before. I guess people get out of touch when they get intimate too infrequently, and she does not like to experiment, but it is still beautiful, and intimate, and afterwards I'm always more happy for a few days, because I think she is beautiful, and I love her, I like feeling her skin and I like being intimate with her, and for her, I try to accept that her drive is way lower than mine. A few days ago we were out partying together, as we sometimes do, and while drunk, she opened to me that we should consider opening our relationship, that she loves me, that we are a great team but the intimate drive has died down, and while she wants to grow old with me, we could look for fulfilling our basal urges somewhere else. So it wasn't her lower drive, it was me, the mean little voice in my head telling me she does not think I'm attractive anymore. Each time I was being rejected was right, all along. She does not want to make love, she just wants to make love with other people and not me anymore. She apparently does not love me anymore to try out new things or ideas how we could rekindle it. Maybe she even has someone in mind, maybe she is already having an affair and wants to clear her conscience. How can I even trust her now? She goes to a training for 1 full month soon, so I will stay home, watch the dog and know that she is out there wanting to make love with other people. You see where this is going, my thoughts are spiraling. I am literally heartbroken and can't think of anything else. I told her we have to talk soon. There were a few things the last days because of which we did not have time to talk yet. But I can't go on like this. I mean, we haven't decided anything yet. Even if we decide not to open the relationship, how can I trust her now? I told her back then that I would try to let the thought linger for a bit before deciding, and try not to brush it off right away, but it is not lingering. It is festering like a tumor in my brain. I am having several panic attacks a day. I dread going to bed because I cry as soon as the lights go out, very quietly, while she is sleeping next to me. I don't want her to see that, because I am afraid that that makes me even less attractive for her. I wake up panicking. I think about hurting myself. I am very close to a breakdown. And I am having a very important job interview today, the last one in a long row, and I most probably get an offer today. A great and very exciting opportunity. I can't shift it, but I can't concentrate. Why does she have to drop that bomb on me? I would like to just run, but I can't. We have a rent contract that we are trapped in for the next 2.5 years. We have a dog. No one of us can afford the full rent alone or take care of the dog alone. My heart is exploding. I am so sad.
My parents aren't intelligent and it annoys me. I grew up in a small town with very religious parents. I left, got my degree, started a good career, traveled, learned to cook, met lots of different types of people. In that time frame, I've changed a lot politically and otherwise. However, my parents who have never left a 30-mile radius or met a person different than themselves are still living the same way they always have. I've always heard that you become a know-it-all disrespectful person who hates your parents in your teens, and that when you get older and gain life experience, you come back around and respect your parents and come to appreciate that they are flawed but wise. That is not how things have panned out for me. When I was younger, I thought my parents were the wisest, most moral people on earth, and the older I get and the more I learn, the less I respect them. I'm visiting my parents right now just the past 2 days alone. They've done so many things that are absolutely baffling, and I'm both dumbfounded by their stupidity and embarrassed to be associated with them. A few highlights. 1. Ron DeSantis is such an intelligent guy, quote from Dad. 2. My mom makes fun of me when I eat vegetables and thinks that I'm pretentious for eating frou-frou food as she calls it. 3. My mom got mad because I told her to stop giving my 1-year-old Diet Coke to drink. 4. I watched my parents grill burgers today with the paper still on the bottom of the patties, and they got mad at me for pointing out that they needed to take it off. 5. My mom keeps telling my 1-year-old no crying allowed. We don't cry. Crying is for drama queens. When I confronted her and told her to please stop because crying is both a coping mechanism and a form of communication for a baby, she didn't speak to me for the rest of the day. I'm exhausted. I don't know anyone else in my orbit whose parents act like this absent a mental illness. Does anyone else get so beyond annoyed at their parents' stupidity and immaturity? Edit to add some clarifications because some of you are making some wild assumptions and projecting your own experiences onto my post. 1. My parents are not poor. They have money and resources to learn and grow but choose not to, mostly I think, due to religious, evangelical, indoctrination. 2. I made it seem like my parents haven't traveled. They have. They've lived in the same 30-mile radius their whole lives, but they visited many different U.S. cities, Israel, Ecuador, Germanic Europe, Canada, Belize, etc. It's just that when they go to those places, they don't actually meet or talk to other people. They stay with their group and view the people that live in those places as animals in a zoo exhibit. They have a very us versus them mentality, again due to religious indoctrination. 3. I've spent the better part of the decade hiding most parts of myself in order to keep the peace. I do not voice my opinions. I do not make comments on their choices no matter how I feel inside. Just my existence pisses them off. Ordering Brussels sprouts at a restaurant earns an eye roll. Making potato salad with celery gets a scoff, and I'm not eating that nasty mess. It's gotten worse after having a kid because they criticize my parenting choices openly. Why do you dress her like a boy? Why do you pick her up when she cries? Letting them mostly do whatever in the short periods of time they have my child, but when I lightly push back to soda, they have a crazy, outsized reaction and call me pretentious. I understand I could go no contact, but they are the only family I've got. I do love them and appreciate what they've done for me. I want a good relationship with them, I'm just learning that a good relationship is probably out of the question. It hurts to not feel accepted for who I am and to feel like my parents don't respect me as an adult. Walking on eggshells has taken a toll. That's why I came here to anonymously vent, with no filter, about them. I would never say what I said above out loud to actual people in my life. I expressed it here to get it out so that I can go back in my parents' house and be as non-offensive as possible. To those who expressed solidarity, thank you. It helps to know I'm not alone.
I recently found out that my older sister is actually my biological mother. My older sister, let's call her Rose, and I have a great relationship since I was a baby. We were raised with an amazing adoptive family and she has always taken care of me. I grew up in a very warm and loving environment, but from what I was told I was lucky. I was told the story of how me and my sister had two junkie parents who never took care of us. They never bothered feeding us and used to left us at a junkie friend's house for days to go out partying. When my mom was pregnant with me she smoked and got drunk. Luckily I turned out pretty fine, pretty often, and when I was born my sister was the only one who took care of me. When I was 2 months old they left us both in a mall and left. We got help from an old couple who also turned into our adoptive family. And we contacted the police but my parents weren't at the house, which looked like a homeless cave. We never saw them again and after several months in foster care the couple that helped us, throughout the whole way by the way, agreed to adopt us. Today I'm 19 and Rose is 34. I still live with my adoptive family and she lives about 20 minutes away so I come and visit her at least 3 to 4 times a week. So a couple of months ago my friend offered me to take a DNA test to find some information about my heritage, since my sister wouldn't speak of them much. After the results came and I found out some pretty interesting things like being 50% Ashkenazi Jew. I found out later that I had an aunt, 33 female, in the system. I immediately reached out to her, let's call her Janet, and we agreed to meet in person, all that without telling Rose a thing. When we met up I could see we have some similar characteristics like same hair color and same eyes. We tried to figure things out so I asked her if she has a brother or sister and she told me that when she was 13 her 14-year-old sister got pregnant while being drunk with her junkie boyfriend and a month after giving birth she ran away with the baby after some pretty intensive fights with her parents. They never found her and stopped looking after 1.5 years. I connected the dots, asked to see a picture of her, so we went to her parents' house. Mom wasn't home and father died 3 years ago. When I saw the picture, I knew, this was Rose, 100%. Rose is my mom. We were never abandoned. We didn't have junkie parents and she fabricated the entire thing to me and our adoptive family. I immediately gave Janet a hug and told her that it's too much for me right now and asked her to keep it a secret for now. I went to my best friend's house, told him everything and for a week now I'm sleeping over at his place. I told my parents and my sister I'm at his house because he bought a new game that we both wanted for long and avoided talking to Rose much. I can't look her in the eyes right now, let alone tell her I know the truth. What the heck am I supposed to do? How should I handle this? Should I tell her I know? Update. I recently found out that my older sister is actually my biological mother. Okay, so I first of all want to thank everyone for your honest replies. It really helped me to get my feelings straight and get ready to confront her. So after a week of avoiding I came to her house with a picnic basket by surprise so I'll have a chance to speak with her. She was happy to see me and I told her to sit down because we need to talk. I started things with saying that I know that she has a secret that she's been hiding from me for years. Her face turned red and she started crying like heck. She knew what I was talking about. I told her the story about the DNA test, about Janet and basically what I told you guys in the last post. Well, after she calmed down a bit she told me the truth. She told me how she got drunk at a party and got with one of the jerks who does nothing but za every day. He didn't really care about a future kid and was like yeah whatever. Apparently she found out that 10 years ago he was unalived in prison. She told me how her mother used to convince her father to talk me out of the idea of keeping the baby. They would constantly fight with her. When the baby was born they told her on the spot that she brought shame upon the family and they will not help raising the baby in any way, meaning she will have to work meanwhile to have money for her baby and sometimes for herself. After a couple of months of loaning from her friends and juggling between working and taking care of me she had a huge fight with her parents and told them that if they are not helping financially and barely in any sort of way, she and me are better off without them. As they sent her to her room she escaped in the middle of the night, hitchhiked to a neighboring country and by morning she was there already. She tried to take care of me for a few days. She found an old abandoned house that used to have homeless people coming around every now and then, and she took me to the mall when I started crying. She started crying too. The couple that adopted us immediately came to our aid and asked if we lost our mother. Rose jumped on the opportunity and came up with a story and an alias. Police figured out we are not in the system for multiple reasons. We were raised in foster care for a year and a half until the couple that helped us decided to make the effort and adopt us so we won't be separated. It took them a few months and a couple of lawyers but they managed to adopt us both. Rose knew all along that her parents are looking for her. They came to their senses after a day or so. She reached out to them and told them in a letter that she is fine and is taking care of herself and me. She is not homeless and found a nice couple to help her with the baby. She made it clear for them that she is never coming back and they should stop looking. And a month after that they stopped. A few years later her father went on a quest to find her. She was after 18, secretly. After so much time searching he found her and apologized and after a while she forgave him and kept secretly in touch with him. He met me a few times and I knew him as one of Rose's old friends from the park. He helped us a few times and apparently they would meet up once every 2 months secretly. Ironically I'm glad I got to know him before he passed, even if I didn't know who he really is. By the way, the adoptive family never found out about the whole thing. So after hearing this I told her we missed a lot by not knowing she is my mother and I told her I understand she did the right thing. I pulled out an "It's a Boy" sign from the picnic basket and some snacks for a late baby shower and we hugged for an hour or so, had a lot of fun, watched a movie and I headed off to my parents. adoptive, house to have dinner with them. I'm glad she is my mother. I feel for the first time in years. Complete. I don't care she lied because she did it for the greater good, and I honestly can't imagine my life right now if she didn't. Thanks Reddit for helping me getting my feelings straight and helping me out mentally to cope with everything that happened.
My husband raised his voice at me over manicuring our son's nails. My son showed me that he broke a nail and I said I'd fix it. Typically I just trim and file his nails, but he had a bad day at school and I wanted to give him some extra attention. It was just a manicure and clear polish. It wasn't even glossy. It was matte, because I know my son wouldn't like shiny nails. It calmed him down and we had a nice time together. My husband got home from work as we were finishing. He loudly asked what I was doing and told our son to show him his hand. My heart jumped being spoken to like that out nowhere. I said I just fixed his nails and my husband said, "That's fine. Just remember he's not a mini you, he's a boy, my son." I didn't say anything back because I don't like to argue. My son mumbled to me, "Why is he so mean?" I told him that he was tired from work. As I was putting some lotion on his hand he asked, "Is he mad at us?" I told him everything was okay and not to feel bad. My husband must have picked up on our son's nerves because later he said to our son, "You know I'm not being mean to you or your mother, right? I'm fine with her pampering you. I'm just reminding her to do it appropriately." He didn't even really say I was doing anything wrong, but it still made me feel like I was. I do honestly think he was tired. I hate seeing our son have anxiety about his dad. It's usually not like that.